This, the podcast designed to help software testers understand risk and adopt new testing solutions with ease and confidence. Your host is Mahamadou, a quality assurance consultant with over 10 years of experience across multiple industries. In each episode, he'll talk to different experts and learn from them about how they test.
Today, I'm happy to welcome Geosley Andrades. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Mamado. It's a wonderful experience and happy to be featured in your podcast here.
I appreciate it. For those who don't know you, Geosley is a Senior Director Project Evangelist and Community Builder at ACCELQ. He leads a global agentic test automation initiatives alongside go-to-market and product marketing strategies. He has nearly 18 years of experience across big players. Think about JP Morgan Chase, BNP Paribas, Cornerstone On Demand, Infosys. There, he helps organizations rethink how software quality is built, validated, scaled, and positioned for impact. On top of that, he is a frequent international speaker, so he justly actively advocates for intelligent autonomous testing at enterprise scale. So thank you again and welcome for being here, Geosley.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and happy to help and share my insights with the community.
Okay. So in today's agenda, we will be talking about agentic automation AI and how is it changing the game for QA teams. We'll start with your journey from entering testing to ACCELQ. Then we'll discuss what agentic AI automation means in practice and why it's important for QA to learn about that. After that, we'll discuss common problems you see in the testing industry. Next, we'll discuss the best way for teams to adopt agentic AI automation solutions. And to conclude, we'll ask you some questions about how testers can level up in the AI era. So without further ado, let's get started. Can you walk us through your journey on how you got into testing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question to say. Initially I didn't actually start as a tester. So I was actually a .NET developer when I started my journey into tech space. And eventually, it happened to be at the time of the tech recession. So there were very less projects, specifically development specific. And then back then, testing just started to boom up. Testing started to come up in picture. That's when I thought, I loved programming and I thought, I should be closer to code. I should be closer to the way that, I have a flair to write programming. And so that's when I kind of thought, okay, let me get into and explore this avenue of testing, see how I can do and, be closer to code doing automation. So then I started building automation frameworks way back then using QTP, which was kind of one of the popular tools back then. And then I slowly transitioned and it was into telecom domain. Then I transitioned into banking domain, where I again built frameworks from scratch in QTP Test Complete, transitioned into basically a learning domain, where I built test automation frameworks using Selenium, C#, Robot Framework, Python. And then eventually I felt a lot of interest when it came to how AI is solving the problem for, how AI is helping do test automation very easily using no code and natural language. So that's when my interest lied and, kind of went into adopting ACCELQ as a platform and being a part of ACCELQ. So it was way back even before ChatGPT kind of came when I joined ACCELQ, and I was kind of very fascinated with this space. And today we all know how much it has grown. So yeah.
So you are currently the project evangelist at ACCELQ.
Correct.
Can you tell us about this role and your responsibilities?
Correct. So as a product evangelist, I have to actually make sure what new I can bring into the project. So it's about hearing the community, hearing out what new we can bring into the automation space, seeing and evaluating how the market is moving towards. So today we know that the market is moving more towards agentic automation, identifying the market trends, identifying the community pain points, practitioner pain points, and seeing how you can build more on the product. The other part of evangelism also lies in talking to customers, getting feedback from them, seeing how the adoption is of the product and how good it is to use, right? So this is predominantly high level what an evangelist does, and obviously talking a lot about technology, talking a lot about the product, believing in the product, and sharing about the product with people who don't know about it. So yeah.
Okay. In simple terms, can you define what is agentic AI and
Right.
autopilot for people who never heard about it?
Correct. So agentic AI is basically using agents to do the automation, right? So when we talk about agents, it's predominantly prompting a particular LLM to do a particular task. So there are various ways of how you can prompt an agent. You can tell it to write test cases. You can tell it to generate synthetic data. You can tell it to write code. Right? So this kind of things were predominantly very much difficult in the past. You needed to know how to write code. So agentic AI is kind of solving that problem. The other aspect of agentic AI is a lot of things that have come into the space right now is autonomous discovery, where you put in your screenshots, where you put in your wireframes of your application or just the URL of the application, and then it automatically discovers issues within your application. There are things in agentic AI is predominantly having the AI kind of help you with self-healing kind of capabilities, because today applications are evolving, applications are changing, there are faster releases. So you need to use the effect of agentic AI to heal or auto heal. And predominantly the last aspect is with regards to agentic AI is it is learning from the past history or past knowledge, right? So that's kind of helping you accelerate your testing.
And what is the biggest misconception you heard about agentic AI? Because we heard AI
Correct.
everywhere nowadays.
Correct. So again, there is a lot of hype when it comes to agentic AI and agentic AI solutions, right? So one thing you need to understand is today agentic AI, you ask any LLM or any AI solution, it's going to generate you test cases, right? Now, while it may look accurate to you, it may not be really accurate. Okay, there may be hallucinations that it's getting injected into this testing output. There may be biases that are creeping in. It may not be as intelligent as a human mind. So the misconception is it's kind of superficially generating something. But if you do not give any context, if you do not give the right prompt, if you do not give the right knowledge set or the data set, it is going to hallucinate. There is a misconception in terms of saying AI is not good, right? AI does not do things. However, we need to be open. You need to be open about change. You need to be open, go with an open mind of how you can feed it the right data. So we have terms like RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. How can you set up an effective RAG pipeline? How can you feed in the right knowledge store or the knowledge database to make sure it is behaving accurately? So this is one of the biggest misconceptions, that AI cannot do stuff accurately. But the true problem lies in giving it the right context. The other aspect I would also say when it comes to, looking at AI is, we need to make sure where it can actually help. You don't have to use AI at every place, at every moment, right? You need to know, is it really going to solve a problem? And the most important thing is also about not blindly trusting AI. So if you don't have the skill set, or if you don't have the right way to judge that this is something very important, then predominantly you shouldn't be, going with AI. So you have to be skillful when it comes to using AI and leveraging the power of AI.
What makes it different from other AI tools in the market?
Correct. So when you look at agentic AI, and specifically if you're looking at a platform like which I am working on today, which is ACCELQ, uh, one thing that, when you're trying to opt for an AI tool, number one uh, is it able to do end-to-end automation, right? If you're looking at it in terms of testing. So today there are AIs, today there are agents which can do superficially the web layer. But when you look at testing, it is not just testing the web layer. You got to test APIs, you got to test database, you got to test backends, you got to test desktop applications. So can a tool do unified automation, or is it creating silos in teams, right? We're using something for web, something for API, something for test data generation. So when it comes to choosing an AI tool, you have to always remember, is a unified solution, that it can give you an unified solution. That ways the learning curve is lower and the adaptability is lower in terms of exchanging knowledge. So this is one of the major things when it comes to choosing a platform. The other differentiator is you shouldn't be using AI just to generate code, because if you're just using AI to generate code, it creates a lot of tech depth, right? And when it creates a lot of tech depth, it's not following design principles. So when you're trying to choose AI, see whether this AI adopting and following design principles, right? Are you able to follow design principles? Is it able to create sustainable solutions? Is it able to look at reusability in mind? So look at ways of how you can leverage AI with a design first approach, right? If your AI is not able to suggest or help you with a design first approach, that will become a problem. So these are the things that you need to look at when it comes to evaluating and finding a differentiator in terms of choosing an automation platform, right? It should suggest you things like maintenance, how you can debug a particular code, how you can easily find out what is wrong. So if an AI tool is able to help you and suggest that, I think that is very important when it comes to choosing or evaluating.
And for people interested in implementing this solution, what is the cost you need in the beginning and what the ROI at the end?
Correct. So when you're trying to use any agentic tool, right, the first thing that you need to look at is try to start small. All right. So when you're trying to use agentic tools, there are most tools out there in the market today which give you a free trial. So it's about using the trial and seeing whether it fits your context or it fits your way of working. Right. So the first important thing when it comes to working is is it fitting your job profile when you look at pricing? So do a foolproof POC, do an end-to-end POC, start small. And when you do smaller activities is when you can evaluate the ROI and then you can use it for doing bigger activities or more complex tasks. So number one is doing a POC, doing a proof of concept. Most of the tools today have free trials. So you should be doing free trials when choosing. The other thing is terms of also to keep in mind is token usage, right? Now, if you're using an LLM, it's always going to use bit of tokens, right? Nothing comes free today. Even if you're using an LLM, it's trying to accelerate certain things. It's going to use tokens, right? And token charges vary from LLMs to LLMs. So one thing you have to evaluate whenever you're using agentic platforms is what is the token size, right? How much of tokens are getting consumed? Is it following the best practices of token consumption? Do you necessarily want to do this task? Is there an easier way of how I can call an LLM using a command line interface? Will it save me certain token value? So pricing is very important. The other thing also you need to evaluate is your team costing, right? For example, if you're using a platform and then if your AI is, you're trying to reduce the resource count, is it actually giving you that ROI in terms of benefiting you, right? Is it doing it faster? Is it making sure that your resources can work on some other important task? So these are the things that you need to evaluate because today you can use an AI to generate test data very effectively, synthetic test data very effectively. You can today use AI to generate code very effectively. So there are various aspects of testing where AI is beneficial. So when it comes to pricing, you have to look at certain considerations. One is token usage. The other is whether the tool is the right fit, right? Because no matter what anyone says, not one size fits all, right? So you need to see what works for your team, what works for your organization.
Okay. And do you have an example of a successful project, a company that adopted this solution of agentic AI automation?
Correct. So if you look at XP as a platform, we have seen a lot of adoption coming to our autopilot feature right now. We have seen companies adopting this specifically for autonomous discovery, right? Because it gives them a headway, right? Because when it comes to engineers, not everyone is very technical savvy in terms of programming or coding language, right? So AI kind of gives you that head start. AI kind of gives you that head starts to brief you with regards to, okay, this is how it should be done. All right. So when it comes to specifically ACCELQ, we are a no-code platform. So the another advantage that it gives is for business users to do automation, right? Very seamlessly in a very no-code fashion. So it's making it accessible. So when it comes to dealing with tools and use cases, you can say large companies have usually adopted it. And the very reason for adoption is because when it comes to ACCELQ platform in particular, it's end-to-end automation. It is basically crossing across web, API, mobile, desktop, all end-to-end. Because most of the bigger companies, most of the Fortune 100 companies, they need an end-to-end use case. They do not just need siloed kind of use cases, right? So if you're working in a real-term use case, it is very important, or bigger companies, they want to make sure that they're doing end-to-end automation and not just superficial, happy part test cases, right? And one of the most important things in AI adoption is to have a clear security architecture. This is very important. So most of our adoption when it comes to our public sector clients, financial clients, or, healthcare clients, they look at the architecture which is very robust in nature. It is not compromising on data security. Again, this is one of the very important points you need to consider when you're purchasing a test automation platform or an agentic automation platform, is how well structured the security of the platform is, right? So this will kind of help you evaluating, and we have seen a lot of success there. If you have a clear and a very robust use case for unified automation, you have the right security things in place, and you're solving the right problems, I think adoption will be as seamless.
Yeah, and we also saw a lot of companies trying to adopt AI automation, and they fail. Like, what do you think they have in common?
So one of the things for failure is, the first important thing is ready for change. So you got to be, shouldn't be negative about change. Change is coming. Technologies evolve. Today it's AI, tomorrow it could be anything, right? So we started off initially, with a lot of testing that was done, human-driven testing, and then eventually went on to automation. Then we saw the wave of blockchain coming in, and now AI is kind of steadfast with generative AI. So adoption-wise, I think we shouldn't have the fear. We shouldn't be negative about the change, right? When it comes to, evolving and using these AI platforms, right? Because one thing we need to understand, that AI is not going to take our jobs. You have to use it for assistance. You have to use it for aiding, right? And, most of the things for failure, again, is not doing a proper proof of concept. So anytime when you adopt, you have the authority to do a proof of concept. If you try to go full bang at one shot, the chances of failure are higher. But if you go bit by bit, if you try to solve smaller use cases, the adoption will be higher. So when it comes to failure rates, POCs should be effective. If you don't do effective POCs, you're going to fail. If you don't have the right test data or the right context that you're giving to the platform, your tests are not going to be effective. It's going to error out for sure, right? So failure reasons could be improper test data, no efficient prompting skills, and then it's also about adoption, the negativeness, trying to do certain things which AI is not meant to do, right? So you have to be very creative. Some of them try to trick the AI, into find the ease in the spelling and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I mean, that's not really needed. That's where you're trying to waste your energy into trying to trick the AI. But work with it, see where it works. If you think it's suiting you, go for it. If you don't think it's there, you don't have to go for it. It's not always that you need to use AI for sure. Decide what is good and then use AI, right? So the chances of failure would be less in such cases.
Yeah, thank you for the advice. And another problem I encountered, because my company personally, they work with different clients. We work with Salesforce, Encino, and like those websites that are more complicated than the regular one. So how do you implement this solution of AI automation?
Sure. So at least from the ACCELQ standpoint, our prime mode was always to automate these enterprise solutions like Salesforce, Oracle, Encino. Now, if you look at these kind of applications, they are traditionally very difficult to automate because of iframes, because of dynamic elements. So traditional open source platforms kind of fail to effectively automate in such cases. When there is dynamic nature of elements, when there are iframes, it becomes more complex. You need to be very much tech savvy. So that we are trying to solve. The other problem when it comes to enterprise app automation is most of these applications, Salesforce has quarterly releases. If you look at Encino, it has monthly releases. Every month there is a new change that comes in. We have SAP with quarterly releases. We have Oracle with quarterly releases. Now, the major problem with automation has been traditional automation has always relied on XPaths and CSS locators to identify the objects. And whenever there is a change in these locators, your tests start to fail. And that creates a lot of maintenance hurdle, right? So, which agentic systems today, you no longer need to rely on XPaths and CSS selectors. It kind of scans the DOM of the element or the pages and helps you identify these elements. So that is one problem that is being solved. The other thing is speed of execution. Deployments having faster, right? So we look at Encino happening every month. The releases happen every month. We look at Salesforce happens every quarter. So you need to go with the pace of innovation. Now, if you're very slow to automate, you are losing on your ROI, right? So when it comes to these systems, you have to make sure you're faster to automate. And the problem and the way that you can solve that, one is using a codeless solution or an agentic solution, where you're merely using an agentic solution to discover your business workflows. You're using natural language processing or AI to just put in a prompt and do the automation for you. So this will help you accelerate your automation, right, for such kind of platforms. The other thing we are doing differently when it comes to ACCELQ as a platform is most of these enterprise applications, they have what we call as centralized or core business workflows. Now, this business workflows will not change. The core working of Salesforce or the core working of Encino or the business workflows, what we call them, is going to be the same. There will be only mere customizations. Maybe a field might be added, a color of a field might be changed, a location might be changed, right? So when it comes to ACCELQ and how we are solving this problem with a vast system, right? Because Salesforce is really huge, or any ERP application, it will take someone really, really long to automate and do a maximum coverage. So what we give is pre-built accelerators, which is on get-go, you have all the core business workflows ready for you to use and leverage. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel again and again. So this is one problem we are solving. But this has already been in the industry where you have pre-built accelerators which are given to you. But what ACCELQ does differently is we do live updates. So since we are partnered with these applications like Salesforce, Encino, Oracle, SAP, etc., whenever there is an update to the platform, we automatically update our assets or our reusable assets that you can use. So traditionally, there were organizations which were giving pre-built assets for you, but they work only one time. The next release, they'll start to fail because your objects have changed. So we are not looking at who is going to update these assets next release. So this is what we have brought into our platform, which is called live assets. So anytime there is a change in the workflow, it is automatically going to update the live assets. So just an example, you're doing a login into a particular application. Tomorrow, all of a sudden, you say there is a remember me checkbox that comes in as a new feature. So if you have a login asset that you are providing to a customer, you will have to introduce this new set of code when there is a new release. However, if you have live updates that are happening because of the partnership or because of your alignment with the release, it becomes much more simpler. Helping really, really well with regards to automating enterprise applications. And then we have our specific algorithms to identify these elements in a better way. For example, if you look at Salesforce, Salesforce has Salesforce metadata, right? So we use this as a way where we can identify these objects in a much better fashion so that our tests are lesser flaky and our algorithms are able to exist to and ensure that there is no flakiness. So yes, release maintenance is one challenge that you'll see in enterprise, and that's how we are kind of solving it with ACCELQ.
Okay. Let's say, for example, my company is using Playwright or Selenium to automate, and we deal with a lot of problem maintenance, flaky test, like you said.
Correct.
What will be, for example, if I'm in a project, what will be the benefit gain for me as a QA working on a project with ACCELQ, for example?
Correct. So it's basically about build versus buy problem or open source versus commercial, right? So do you have the appetite to build a framework? So traditionally, if you ask me, frameworks used to take a lot of time to build, right? They used to take like 6 months to a year to build. Today, because of agentic systems, we have systems like Cursor, Windsurf, etc., where you can build this kind of open source frameworks in a faster amount of time, right? However, the problem is who is going to maintain it? Who is going to understand whether whatever AI is generated is right or not right, right? So earlier you had the problem of it taking more time to build. Today you have you're taking more time to ensure that it is sustainable. Is it following the best practices of design principles? And is the AI giving it the right thing? So eventually we are spending in time on ensuring that the framework is robust. So when you come to a commercial tool like ACCELQ, you already have the framework already built for you. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel all over again, right? So we are taking care of a ready-made framework already in place for you. So here we are saving, number one is on the skill set. Like you may need to be an architect to actually decipher whether the AI is giving the right information if you're planning to use an agentic AI system. Or even if you're not, you still need to have the skill set to debug and build that framework. So here you're going to invest a lot of resources. Now, if you look at the overall thing, right, to hire an architect and build these things comes with cost. Tools give it this to you out of box so that someone new into the space. So the idea of having a out of box framework helps someone who's new to get started and get going. Right. For example, let's say you're an architect, you have built a framework, you're very good at coding, you're technically very sound, you built a framework, but there is a new member who comes in the team. You got to give him that onboarding KT or knowledge transfer to understand, how this framework works. What if it fails? Where should you go and fix it? All right. So there is a lot of to and fro. There's a lot of learning curve that happens when it comes to this. Yeah, some may argue today that, there is agentic AI to tell you that. But if you don't have the skill set, you're not going to, do it effectively. You're going to spend the same amount of time, right? Now, when it comes to commercial platforms, obviously, when you purchase a platform, with it you get 24/7 support. With it you get assistance. With it you get a community of people who are, using the platform or the users of the platform, which are going to aid and help you. So benefits come with pre-built frameworks, all the R&D and the research done in terms of adoption, in terms of how you can set in proper data. Prompts are predominantly structured in the templatized way so that you don't have to worry about what is the right prompt. So whenever you're using agentic systems or specifically test automation systems, behind the hood, they already have a template. They already have a structure ready. So even if you just say write test cases for, let's say, logging into a particular application, behind the hoods, there is always a template, right, which is going to append to your prompt, right? For example, when you say as a user, and we as humans are kind of lazy, we don't have the time to write lines and lines of code or prompt to be very contextual. So this templatized prompts get appended to your prompt. Whenever there's a test case on a requirement, you kind of look into security aspects, look into performance aspects, look into accessibility aspects, and give me test cases accordingly. Right now, as a fresher, you may not be even thinking of these aspects, but with a lot of research, with a lot of learning, these prompts get curated in such a way that they are appended onto your existing prompt, which makes it much more easier. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The learning curve is easier, it's faster, and then you get innovation in the context of what you're doing, right? So let's say today in ACCELQ, we have autonomous discovery where you can discover the entire coverage of the application. We have prompt to logic generation. We have synthetic data generation. We have result analysis. We have self-healing already in place. We have algorithms already in place, which can identify objects like shadow DOMs, iframes in a more better manner, right? So these are the things which you get when you look at building versus purchasing an existing platform, which kind of stands out, right? Because you have been working with Salesforce or Encino, you know that these elements become complex as you go, and then you got to maintain it. So even if AI gives you a particular piece of code, you still need to feed it the relevant X paths or the locators to identify this code, right? So just mere code is not going to help you. How it's going to identify will be a challenge, right? And today, if you talk about agents doing everything autonomously, it still will take time to get there, right? So that's where it comes where you think of comparing using open source versus commercial platforms.
Okay, so for you, it means like no code is a future. We should stop learning coding.
I don't think so. We should stop learning coding. That's not right, because if at all you're using any system, right, you really need to know at least the fundamentals or the business logics. So when I say business logic, it is predominantly with regards to design aspects or design principles. So coding is just one part of it, whether you're writing in Java, whether you're writing in TypeScript, etc. But if you don't know how to structure your test, if you don't know how to make it reusable, if you don't know how to ensure how test data is getting added, and most importantly, if you don't have the domain knowledge, it's useless, right? No matter you know how to code. right? Because the code problem is already solved. The code problem is being solved. You just ask an LLM, it will give you the code. But that's not the foolproof thing. You need to know the design aspects, how you can design it well. So I wouldn't say that you don't need to code to know how to code. You need to know how to code because there are certain aspects, because you'll have to debug, you'll have to understand, because AI may hallucinate, AI may not be perfect. You need to know the output. You need to be having the ability to evaluate the output. You need to be having that expertise, leverage any platform. Is it making any sense? So let's say, it's been like, AI generated code, but there is a comma missing and you really don't know the syntax. Right? You'll spend your hours and hours trying to figure out, hey, what is actually wrong? Right? So if you don't have that coding mindset, or that the core fundamental concepts may not be vital. So I would say coding is not a problem today. However, understanding the business logic, the design principles, the clean code practices. We have a lot of clean code practices. Understanding how you should name your actions, your logic is very important. And for that, you really need to know the fundamentals, irrespective.
Okay, great. So thank you. Now we understand exactly what AGI automation is. Let's say my company is interested. We want to implement automation testing with autonomous AI. Can you tell us what's the starting point?
Right. Right. So when you're starting an agentic AI or adopting an agentic AI solution, like I said, mentioned earlier as well, to get started, number one is to find out what you need to automate or what problems you need to solve. Everyone may have specific problems, right? So the first thing I talked about is what channels you want to automate. Do you just want to automate web? Do you just want to automate APIs? Do you want to automate just mobiles? Do you want to automate desktops? Let's say uh, your use case is to automate mobile. Is the AI tool that you're using or trying to, adopt is able to automate mobiles? If it's not able to do that, you're spending in just unnecessary time evaluating it, right? So one is deciding your scope of what you want to automate. That is very important. So if your scope is very clear, you can kind of do a proof of concept across tools and see what tick marks you can do, right? So when you're getting started, number one is try to focus on what is the scope of evaluation. That's number thing. The other part is to understand security implications or policies within your organization. How much of data they want secure? Is the solution needs to be hosted on-prem, or has the solution can be hosted on cloud? What are the LLM models being used? Is it like passing it to a generic model and then trying to give a response? So the architecture is also very important, because if at all your data is going on to a public LLM, there is going to be a breach of data. So you got to ensure that your data is secure. So even while purchasing, you have to make this decision. How secure is the data? Try to get into the architecture of how things work when it comes to evaluating these platforms in terms of adoption. The other thing is, obviously, at least what we tell our customers is, come up with the most difficult test case that you will ever do in your organization and try it out on our platform. And I would recommend that, when you're doing a POC, take the most difficult test case or a scenario that you would like to automate. Now, if a tool is able to do that, you are very sure that it can do the minor workflows. So try to look for a happy part test case even when you're evaluating POC. Try to go for a very complex scenario, right? Because tools will do the basic stuff. Tools are going to do the login stuff. Tools are going to do the clicks and the fill forms. But try to get for a complex use case. There is a lot of complexity, when it comes to calling APIs, chaining APIs, passing in data from an API to something on the UI, or impacting something on a mobile database, working with SMSs, right? Emails, for example, PDF validations. Can the AI even do that? If you have PDF validations, can the AI skim through the PDF and give you issues, or even the tool that you're trying to adopt, right? So it is very crucial to give a thought of not jumping immediately there. You have to first figure out what is your context, and then you can slowly progress with adoption, right? And then obviously there is a lot of things, when you're evaluating tools. I'll also recommend, like, we do a lot of, we have been evaluated with a lot of analysts as well, like the Forrester, Gartners. So look, whenever you're choosing tools as well, look for what analysts have to say about the platform. So we have analysts like Forrester and stuff. And in fact, even Forrester evaluated Last year in December 2025, we were among the leaders in that quadrant. So this analyst do an independent study of various platforms in the market and come up with their choice of what they think is the best, right? Or what they think would be ideal. They reach out to our customers. They reach out to get feedback from our customers and do. So do that market study. Try to see what the analysts have to say. Go and look at platform reviews. There are a lot of review platforms like Gartner, Capterra, G2, etc., where customers give their reviews, where independent users give their reviews, and try to understand the sentiment of the product, right? Because it's similar to buying a product on Amazon. Like if you're trying to buy a headphone from Amazon, you'll see the star rating, right? So obviously, go and look at the star rating, see what analysts have to say about this, what score the analysts have given. Look at the reviews. What are the users? What are the practitioners talking about it? All right. So we make it a point that, whenever you're adopting a platform, look at these things and then take that major decision.
And if there are a list of metrics stakeholders should track?
Again, it's kind of debatable what metrics you need to give. Obviously, you should focus on quality versus quantity is what I would suggest, right? Because it's been quite a debate when it comes to, how many bugs, what is the count of bugs that a tester or, a team is kind of identifying. But I would rather say what is the quality of the bugs that are being found. So when it comes to metrics, one of the things you can try to figure out is what is the quality of issues that this automation framework is identifying. Right? That is number one. So metrics can be on that. The other metrics can be on the time taken to automate. Now with agentic AI systems, obviously it is faster. But when you're looking at the metrics of time to automate, you should also look and consider aspects like maintenance and then debugging, right? Because these are very important, right? So traditionally, our metrics was very clear. Open source would take a lot of time. Codeless would definitely take lesser time. However, today with agentic systems and their adoptions, we have to be sure about and be very cognizant about the time taken in terms of building these automation scripts. That's one thing. The other thing is in terms of resource cost. So this also becomes very important when it comes to teams adoption with regards to trying to find out the ROI. Paying an architect is expensive. How many architects can you afford in a team? How many tech persons you can across the team? And what we kind of emphasize much more is basically from an SME standpoint, right? So if you have subject matter experts, they who can automate, it makes them very easy to do the automation. So when it comes at no code, low code, right? So the one matrix is in terms of resource saving. That is what you can also track when it comes to the matrices you want to show in terms of the revenue. And then there is defect slippage. You have all the things in place. You have all the automation in place. How many defects are getting slipped? Is the automation just giving you a pass all the time, or is it actually serving some purpose? So that is one thing in terms of effectiveness, right? So a defect slippage is one way you can identify, and how many defects are getting slipped. Where is the correction? So this is one thing you can also look at in terms of matrices.
Okay. In terms of training, how does it work? Like, should I also learn how to prompt, for example, instead of less coding?
Like in terms of training, like at least from the ACCELQ platform, it's pretty easy. Again, like I said, we have templatized ways of how we extend the prompt. So from learning, yes, of course, if you're using any sort of agentic AI platform, you need to know how to do effective prompting. Like I said, how to pass in the right context. So prompt engineering is a skill no one can escape today. But when it comes to other aspects of adoption of agentic AI platforms, you should look at the basics like I talked about. You should learn how to do what are the effective design principles that you're doing. You should look at clean coding practices. That is one thing you have to know. And when it comes to adoption as well or learnings, the other thing that you have to do is hands-on is a must, right? You can't just say, you can do everything, because we know that tools can do a lot of magic, as we call it, or a lot of stuff that is there. But when you're trying to adopt, you have to first play around with the tool. So hands-on is very important. You need to do your hands-on, right? A tool may do this thing, but unless and until you do hands-on, you will not be able to be convinced yourself. So they call it as saying, the popular term, seeing is believing. So you got to do it, see it, and then believe, right? Versus just hearing out someone say, right? It does this, it does that, it does test cases, it does that, but unless and until you use it, right? Because from a practitioner standpoint, it is very important that you play around with the platform, do a lot of hands-on. So that is very important to get going and get started, I would feel.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to the last section of this interview. How do you see the role of tester evolving over the next few years? Because many people are scared, like Agentic QA will replace the entire QA team.
Yeah, it's kind of very interestingly evolving, I would say. But the thing that we need to understand is, agentic platforms are helping build products fast, helping ship product fast. So testing has to be fast. We cannot go in the traditional way of waiting for the release to happen and then going the traditional way of, manually looking out and exploring certain stuff, because the way that products are getting shipped today is in minutes, not even in months or weeks, right? Every minute, if you're using vibe coding platforms, there are changes that are happening. So how to keep up with that? So from a testing standpoint, it is very critical that we go fast and yet we are context aware of how we are going and testing this thing. So that's going to evolve. The other aspect again, where we as testers need to look at this vibe testing platforms, how or agentic platforms, what are they to offer? Are you in a notion that you're still in a very traditional way of how you're doing testing? How can you leverage this in a much effective way? So just an example, you're doing generating test data. Earlier, we used to have our own set of instructions. The pin code has to be 10 digits. So we come up with various variations. We will come up with various combinations. But give that instructions to the AI and let it generate the synthetic data for you. It will be much faster. It can generate hundreds, thousands of, different combinations for you, which are human. It will take significant amount of time. So you have to think smartly of how AI can solve your problem. So from an AI standpoint and how testers have to evolve is how you can solutionize and leverage AI or embrace AI to do things much faster. The other things for us as well, when it comes to evolution and where we are heading as testers is with regards to testing these AI systems. You will see that now most of the applications are adopting AI, right? Every application has a little bit of AI into it, which makes it even more critical for us as testers, right? In fact, you see a lot of larger organizations as well who are even building these models are focusing a lot on testing these models first. So they do even beta tests. They kind of launch models only to a few users. So they're very cautious about, before it's made public, give it to a small set of users. So they are following the testing practices. So testing is not going to go away. The models need to be tested now, which makes our responsibility even higher, right? Because earlier it was very deterministic in nature in terms of how we are testing. 2 plus 2 equal to 4. And, an automation could tell it's correct, right? Or evaluate it's correct. But today's deterministic. You have different ways of how AI can do, like just a simple question, right? If you ask AI to make tea or coffee, it will give you different various combinations of how it can do it, right? Different answers in terms of how it can be done. So it's very non-deterministic in nature. AI is giving a different answer every time. So from a testing standpoint also, we have to evolve on how we can test these models. So when you have to test these models, there is a concept called deciding what is the rubrics or a score that we need to give to these models. What are the matrices we need to evaluate for these AI models, like accuracy, like context awareness. So these are the things which us as testers need to know. And to go with the wave, I would say, and to be up to beat in terms of the market, it's very important to also explore these terms. We as testers traditionally have not been very close to AI, but today is the right time, and it's not late, I would say, to look at these terms, how MCP servers are used, how a RAG pipeline is set up, because irrespective of whatever you use, an agentic commercial platform or open source platform, these terminologies need to be used. So whenever you're trying to implement AI, you need to know prompt engineering, what is a RAG, what is agentic AI, what are MCP servers, and all these things. What is a vector database, what is a knowledge graph. So all of these things and concepts you need to be aware of. And if as testers you're not aware, you need to start progressively working towards it. So evolution is going to be different, but the ones who upskill, the ones who embrace the technology definitely are going to be a step ahead than someone who's just laid back with the idea that, the testing done in the past is the best testing ever, right? So that mindset has to evolve.
You got a successful career over 18 years, so congratulations. You take many roles. Like, what advice do you have for people who are entering the market right now?
Right. So I think when you get started, the most important thing is don't run after money and don't run after position, right? So your initial years always have to be towards getting as much knowledge as you can, right? Because you are fresh, you are eager to learn, you've entered the market. It's time to gather as much experience as you can. So I would say when you're starting your career, the most important thing is learn as much as you can, because as the roles progress, the roles decrease. So there is a lot of time for you when you start to experiment, to take risk, and to fail, because it may not impact much, right? As you grow the ladder, there's a lot of risk if you fail, right? But you can experiment as a fresher. No one is going to tell an intern, if something goes wrong, hey, it's been a problem, right? So be there, try to experiment, but yeah, don't do mistakes like, deleting an entire database with wipe code. There have been cases that ways. But yeah, be cautious about experimentation. So one is learning, keep learning. The other thing I would say is networking, right? Because it's very important to network, right? And listening, reaching to people in the market, experts in the market. So networking is very important. So even when you're starting your career, try to follow experts, try to see what they have to say, try to listen to their failure stories. Not everything is a smooth trajectory. If it's a smooth trajectory, then it's not a journey, right? So not always you'll get a smooth trajectory. So listen from experiences. It's very important that you might have your 9 to 6 job, but spend some time to learn every day, right? So like they say, small droplets make an ocean. Even if you spend an hour every day for yourself or upskilling, you will eventually build a massive pot of knowledge, and knowledge is something no one will take it away from you, right? And it's never going to go waste. So focus on learning, focus on investing your time for your personal building, because that will take you later. Uh, as you grow, all of the other things will automatically come to you. Position, money, everything will always come automatically to you, right? As you get going. So learning is very important. Second is networking. I would say join communities. There are a lot of QA communities out there which have been doing a lot of good work. So join these communities. It's very important. Listen to podcasts like this. You'll definitely get some insights. I hope people listening to this would have got quite some significant insight. So listen to podcasts, read books. Like how much of us have read testing books or books which are specific to our profile? So look at ways of how you can invest in reading, networking, and as much as possible trying to interact with community, following experts in the space, listening to them, following them, seeing what they have to write. There are a lot of good testers in the industry today who write a lot of good blog posts, every day, do a lot of YouTube videos. So follow them, and that's how you learn, and that's how you can grow in the ladder. So focus on learning and everything will follow. And the most important thing I would request, anyone stepping in the market today, there is a lot of accessibility in terms of tools doing everything for you. However, the focus has always to be focusing on design part of it, how to design really well, following the best practices. So that will never go away, no matter if AI is giving you everything, unless and until you don't have that skill set or human judgment, or as they call it, human in loop is something which is very important, right? So the human brain is going to still remain supreme to take that decision whether to accept that AI output or not. That is something that you need to take care of.
Do you also have resources you recommend, like your blog, YouTube channel, for example?
Yeah. So I would say I do a couple of videos. So the thing is, with regards to, when it comes to have your own set of repository. So it's like have your own Swiss knife. So initially, when I started my career, I used to have my own notes, right? Specifically, it was related to automation, right? So what I did was, I had my cheat sheet, because earlier we didn't have chat GPT or things like that, So I had my cheat sheet, how to fetch data from an Excel file, how to interact with a database, how to, update a result in an Excel file. So try to create your set of Swiss knife or your army of things. I would say today, in today's world, try to create those prompts that you will obviously ask an LLM if you don't know certain things, right? So have your checklist of things or resources which is going to guide you to get there, right? So this will help you, accelerate faster in terms of progressing in the space. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you again. That was my last question. Is there something you want to add, like I didn't ask you about before I conclude the episode?
I think we're good. The only thing I would like to end here is, don't get scared of AI. Change is evident. Change will come. Technologies will evolve. So it's important for us to embrace it, see what works for us, and don't follow anything blindly, I would say. Take your own judgment is what I would ask everyone to go with.
Okay, so thank you again, Geosley, for this conversation. I've learned a lot, and I think people who listen to it learned a lot as well. Yeah, I appreciate that. So for people who are interested to learn more about you, I will share the links to your LinkedIn profile, to your personal blog, to ACCELQ, so they can understand what is Agentic AI automation is, and people can also reach out to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for featuring me. Yeah, take care.
You're welcome. So this concludes today's episode, and stay tuned for upcoming episode. So thank you again, and have a nice day.